Hello, welcome. I hope that you are joining us for this really important story I'm telling myself conversation. You know the drill. If you are here, jump in the comments and say hello. My poor Facebook friends just got cut out at the last minute. It just said it couldn't connect them. So I hate that for us, Carmen. But hopefully I'll be able to post it some way and they'll get it in the replay, or they'll get it when we go on the other one. So welcome, Carmen. Thank you for saying yes to joining me on the story I'm telling myself. Please introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rita, for inviting me and for making this possible. I am always excited to come and talk about this, which is so important. This topic that is not often discussed openly. So I'm here to change that. My name is Carmen Alvarez, and I am a well-being thought leader, mindfulness teacher, and researcher, a Reiki practitioner, and I'd like to say that, in short, my purpose here now is to help others navigate their pain and find their own transformation. So, thank you so much for having me.
You are very welcome. And here is Carmen's contact information. So if you want to connect with her, this is one of the ways that you can get her: Carmen Alvarez Wellness.kit.com. And she would love to connect with you outside of this conversation. Sonia, welcome. Sonia's been with me almost every conversation, and I just love it, Carmen. I feel so loved
Hi,
by
Sonia.
that. So you
Hi,
came to
Sonia.
talk about what is often a really heavy conversation, but I think such a very important one, and that is navigating grief. And now I apologize, listeners. I just need to say to you, Carmen, my internet might get squirrely because I am not on my 5G, because I'm not on my normal laptop. If I disappear, you just keep going. I'll be right back. I promise you. So I didn't tell you that before we started, but you need to know that because that is a possibility. But now that being said, here to talk about grief today and tell everybody a little bit about your story.
Yes, thank you. And let's just say before I even start sharing my own personal journey with grief, is that grief can be described very broadly. So if you're listening to this and you're joining us today and you don't identify with losing a loved one, I want to say that grief comes in many shapes. Grief is also when you lose a job. It could be a divorce. Any major life transition will lead you to experience grief. So everything that we're discussing here today applies to any of you in life transitions. In my own journey, I did happen to lose someone. I lost someone very, very dear to me, my brother, who was beyond my brother. He was the baby of the family, someone that I felt I almost raised myself as well. So we had a very special bond, and we became best friends as adults as well. And so he was just my hero as well. I really admired his work, and he passed in at the end of 2016, which left me completely unprepared to navigate it. Grief is something that we don't openly discuss in society. I think, in fact, we're often encouraged to have those conversations in private, or not have them at all, actually, and just quickly get over it and move on with your lives. And so when I found myself in that situation, I was ill prepared. I didn't know where to go or how to navigate it myself. So I am here to change that. As I said, I don't want anyone to go through the pain that I experienced then. The only way that I can describe it for anyone is that when you find yourself in that shock, first of all, there's a period of shock that can go anywhere from a month, 3 months, a year. It varies. It's different for everyone, right? But once you even get out of the shock period, what you find yourself in is the worst nightmare. It feels like you are aware of everything going on outside of yourself, but you are experiencing it from a void. So it's almost like you're in a black hole. it is just the worst pain imaginable. And you're aware of the fact that this has changed you, but you don't even have, at least I didn't even have the words to articulate what was happening to me, and how I needed help. So I just quickly wanted to get back to normal life. And so I did what most of us do, which is I went back to work right away. I wanted to immerse myself in my old life, thinking that would be it. But that was the worst. Actually,
Okay, and let's pause. Let's not glide through this part too fast because I think this is really important. So the story that you were telling yourself is there safety in normal. If I just jump back into normal, I'll be okay. And
that's
that was the
right.
story. That was, I mean, once you got past the initial shock, the pain, but the how am I going to handle it? The story was, oh, just go to what I know. If I bury myself in work, if I do these things. And I think that you're not the only one, Carmen. I have a feeling that this is a pretty common coping strategy. And in
Absolutely.
fact, I think many people encourage that in trying to help their friends through a
Yes.
time of grief. They encourage them to go back to normal activities. So let's just pause and put that emphasis there that this is, but it's a story that you tell yourself,
It was
right?
one of the stories, right? We tell ourselves many stories throughout the grief journey, and is several stages of grief, as you know. And I have to say, healing in grief is not linear. It doesn't, start here and then you go here and then you're done. Absolutely not. It's just more like this, especially at the beginning. So, someone that I admire. Susan Davis. She wrote a book called Emotional Agility, and she put it so well the other day. And she said, "Grief is not something you get over; it's just simply something you learn to walk with." And this is the part that
Mm.
at the very beginning, when I was just looking for a quick fix and I was looking to get over it, that I didn't yet appreciate. I came to appreciate it later. The fact is, grieve and any loss, any form of grief you experience changes you. And the thing is that we are so afraid of feeling. We're so
Oof.
afraid to pause and to just say, let's sit with this. What am I feeling? And to allow that to transform you. And so this is what,
Can we dig into that a minute? I can't
yes,
just let that
go
go.
ahead.
Well, Angie, thank you for your comment. It does. So this idea of normal, it feels like a safe distraction. But let's talk about this.
Mhm.
Dodging our feelings. What is the story underlying that? What was the story you were having, Carmen, underlying that about your own feelings and your relationship to your feelings?
Well, and I think, a lot of people may relate to this, but you are absolutely so afraid of feeling because several things. One, you're afraid that once you let go and allow yourself to feel that you may just lose it, right? I really felt that way. I
Yeah,
thought if
I
I
can't
allow
handle
myself
this.
no, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I truly allow myself to feel, what does it look like? I may just lose my mind. I don't, so I didn't want that. So there's a big fear of the unknown of what feeling may look like. And so, in general, in society, we're not the best at feeling. It's the opposite. We utilize so many ways of distracting ourselves from feeling. But I'll tell you what, healing is not about getting better. It is not. It's healing is getting better at feeling. So what you learn through
Ooh,
your process, what you learn
I
through
gotta
your
type that in here. Ooh,
type that in
ooh, that's
there.
good.
Yeah. So healing is not about getting better. It's about learning to be better at feeling. So we just don't know how to do that in general. So getting comfortable to just sit with the emotions and what comes, even if that is fear, if that is terror, if that is uncertainty, whatever it is, it's just finding a way to feel comfortable to sit with it and to just go through the journey, flow with it. Um, it is one of the first stages of when you're on your way to truly heal. But I am here to tell you too, as well. I am very understanding, non judgmental. I've been through it. And so when I work with individuals, whether it is one on one or helping teams navigate transitions. I am very compassionate because I've been there and I know that it's not easy. So sitting with it is not easy, and I understand all the fears and everything that come behind it. But I'm going to tell you that exactly because of this, I can guarantee you that it is only through deeply, deeply understanding your pain and your suffering that you get to true compassion. I want to say that again. It is only through deeply understanding your own suffering and your own pain that you eventually make it to compassion. Compassion to yourself, with yourself, being kind to yourself as you navigate this. And then eventually the compassion that it takes to help others also navigate this process. And so it is a beautiful process. And if you allow it, it's one that is transformative, but it's also, it's part of the journey as you go through it. It's part of the choices that you will come to making eventually. Once you make it through, sitting with it and navigating the nightmare that it is, eventually you will come to that. And that's how that's what I found in my own journey, is that eventually I came to a point where I had to ask myself, how does this serve me? What do I want to do with this? Because as I said before, grief will change you, Rita. So you have to, I think we're afraid when something tragic happens in our lives, whether it is, again, any transition. So this is losing someone, or, going through a divorce or anything else. At the end of it, you are a different person. We're just so afraid to admit that. But actually, the freedom comes in just allowing that transformation, just saying, yeah, I am not who I used to be. I am someone different, but what does that mean for me now? And what do I need? What do I want to do with this? Right? In my case, I wanted my own story, my own pain to allow me to help other people. I wanted my brother story to live on through my service through others. In my own case, I found that service to others is the most beautiful way to continue to heal. And grief is, like I said, grief is something that continues on. I'm not saying that I'm all, that it's over. It's a process. But today I feel a lot more at peace with this process because I've come to understand it in that way. Grief is something that I've learned to incorporate and integrate into my life. It doesn't define me, but it has transformed me. And I have chosen to make it my purpose. And so that brings us to joy. When we're going through navigating grief, one of the other stories we tell ourselves, how can I be joyful? I just went through something that is so significant, right? And so sometimes we feel guilty. I don't know if anyone has been through something and you feel that I can't let myself to, fill in the blank, laugh, go to a party, etc. when you've been through something.
Well, we had
So
rituals, right?
we-
For many centuries, and many religions still have rituals in which we remove ourselves from social situations where we might have joy or connection or other things. And it is meant to be an honoring thing. But that's, many of us, even if we weren't officially taught that, it's still, we've been exposed to it, and so it's still operating in the back of our minds.
Exactly, Rita. And that's where the shame comes in and the guilt. It's not necessarily because you don't feel right to enjoy something joyful or to feel joy, but you have that programming in the back of your brain, something that comes up, that little voice that says, is this right? This doesn't feel right. So that's another misconception that there is. I mean, joy and grief can coexist. It's not one or the other. This again ties back into the fact that grief is something you navigate and that you integrate in your life. You can find joy eventually in the process of healing, in the process of sharing your journey with other people. And so it's in welcoming and allowing your new identity as well. because it comes with that. When it changes you, a lot of us struggle with the fact that now I've been changed. Who am I now? It's that new identity. So giving yourself permission to reimagine who you are now. It's okay
Yes,
to not
from
want.
Sonia, this comment about wanting to heal and being more forgiving. I mean, it does change you. It
Mhm.
absolutely does, and it changes you for the better. But there's a reason that
Mhm.
denial is the first step in the grieving process, and it's not denial that you've suffered a grief. It's denial that you have to change, that you're going to be
Yes.
different on the other side of this, that you are changed. And you were talking about grief comes in all kinds of packages. And the first time that I really found myself trying to reconcile grief and joy coexisting was when my first child left for college. And I was grieving as a parent, but I was celebrating. I knew and I wanted to be joyful, and I didn't want her to see my grief because I didn't want to steal the joyfulness of that moment from her. But I I still feel them both in my body right now talking about it. Like I
Yes.
feel the grief of my child is not my little child at my house anymore. And I'm
That's
proud
right.
of the professional and everything that she's done. But really getting to be able to reconcile that idea that I can be sad about this, I can be struggling with this, but that doesn't mean I want it to change. And then when my dad passed away, it was the exact same thing because I didn't want him to have to live in a facility and not have a life and suffer. He had already been suffering so much with his cancer treatment. I wanted his suffering to end if there was no future for him. And so I was both joyful and I was in grief. And it is a really difficult thing for us to it's a complexity that is hard. I find it to be hard as a human.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for sharing that experience, and bravo for you. I love the way that you allowed the emotion to flow through you so beautifully. You're so open and just allowing that. So congratulations. You just illustrated to everyone what it may look like to have the emotion come through and not suppress it, and just allow that. So
Thank you.
beautiful. Beautiful. So yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that the letting go and accepting that life changes is the change that we're afraid of. It's that fear of what life may look like now. Of course, there's a grief of, what has passed, the little girl stage, and everything else. But that's okay. Every ending is a new beginning. So then every, fear, on the other side of fear, it's always love. So like anything else, the change, when you have fear, just flip it over to see the new beginning. And so now you enjoy her as the new adult, and you get to see all of her new beginnings and her new firsts. So it's another way of seeing her take her first steps, right? So there's always a
Absolutely.
way to see joy in every process. It's just our perspective. And I found, Rita, that in my own experience, that was the single biggest transformation, was my perspective, in how I embraced change, how I embraced my own feelings and emotions. I was someone who was extremely pragmatic, very type A personality. So in fact, when I first went to grief, I went through a counselor and I sat across from her, and then I said, okay, I have a list. I've done this, 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 and this. Now I'm literally checking off everything that I've done. And I'm saying to her, now tell me what to do so that I could be done with this. And I was waiting for her so that I literally, this is how I was, right? Because I'm a type A. And she said, I cannot tell you that. I walked out of there. I was so disappointed, never came back. And I said, that was useless. She's not helping me. Well, obviously, I was so not ready to go through this. That was at the very beginning of my journey.
Right,
And
and you
so
were
now,
avoiding your feelings, right?
oh,
Like
yes.
all of us good intellectual people do. We're going to the facts and the data and the process. The process is going
Yep.
to save us. We don't have to deal with the
Yes.
messy emotions.
Oh, right, right. But I learned, thank goodness, I, made it through the other side of that. And but it wasn't until I really, the pain was too much to bear. Eventually I realized that I couldn't just go on with normal life. That wasn't working. And I didn't want to continue to live a life that did not feel genuine, a life that felt limited by this pain. And I just knew that there has to be something else. I needed to go deeper. So, but it wasn't until I was allowing myself to take off all the masks and to allow the emotion to go through that the journey really began, and the transformation then could be possible, is when you allow yourself to feel.
Can I just interrupt? One of the things I would love to have your lens on, and I don't know if you personally had this experience, but I see this in my family navigating the grief process and the loss of my dad. That you get to this place where you tell yourself this story. People don't want to see me being sad anymore. People don't want to hear about my loss anymore. I owe it to the other people around me to show up and pretend to be normal, the masking thing that you were talking about, to get beyond this or whatever, because people don't want me to be the Debbie Downer. I just keep showing up as the Debbie Downer. I don't know if you experienced that, but in your look at grief, can you talk a little bit to that story? Because I do think that one is, I see that and I hear that in my family a lot right now.
Yes, thank you, Rita. And I experienced that too myself. Everyone else in my family was very happy to go back to normal life and hurry back to not mentioning that this ever happened, etc. And I, from the very beginning, that never felt right to me. I knew that it wasn't my route. I didn't want to be the downer at all, but I also was very aware of the fact that I wanted to not forget my brother's name. Because that was a thing. They wouldn't say his name. I remember, like, it's like, let's just not say even the name, right? So I remember just feeling this anger, this that was waking up in me to say, absolutely not. He's amazing. It doesn't change that he is part of our lives just because he has transitioned onto something else. I am going to say his name. I am going to speak about how amazing he is and how much I love him. It doesn't matter. And so having the courage to focus on the life lift, the joy, the love, that is what transforms that, because eventually they all came around, and it took a couple of years, but eventually it became very normal for us to sit around and now feel very comfortable saying his name, talking about him and how much we love him. So, but it has to take one of you to embrace that courage, to be brave enough to break the mold. Again, this is another way of, society has ingrained in us, right? That you are allowed to grieve, but only for a month. And then after that, you should be, a little bit, less sad. Exactly. So,
Well, and on the other side of that, I think that socially, because of those cues, as friends and family members surrounding somebody, I, I think maybe we give ourselves the role of trying to help people move on, of trying to encourage them instead of just bearing witness and allowing their grief to take what it takes. So I don't know. Did you ever feel like somebody was trying to rescue you from your grief and to help you um, try to move faster than where you really felt like you wanted to be?
absolutely. Everyone always, said to me, it's you can get over this now. That's what people would always say. Absolutely. That's what you will hear from people. And I have to say that your own journey and how you navigate your own grief is you should honor that. And it doesn't it's different for everybody. And so, no, I think that at the beginning, it wasn't about dictating how they grieved. I learned that very quickly, that everyone was grieving in their very specific way in the family. But I knew that my way of grieving was going to be a little different. And so, yes, I embraced it, I honored it. But absolutely, you will hear as you navigate this the echoes of those messages and those stories that everyone is, they'll share their stories that they're telling themselves with you as well, because it feels better and safer for them, right? So I want to say that, and pivot a little bit here, just to say that, um, one of the most beautiful outcomes of this journey for me, aside from that shift in perspective about feeling and allowing the emotion, was really finding a way to help other people. And for me, that has come in a few ways. One, because I wanted to honor my brother's life, and he was a medic. He saved many lives in his when he was here. So I became a Reiki practitioner, which, for any of you who are not familiar, is a form of energy healing, if you will. It's very gentle yet very powerful. And I like to say that it's similar to acupuncture. If you've ever been or heard about acupuncture, right, where they put needles in different energy points in your body to bring about harmony and balance. It is similar to that, except that I won't come at you with needles. It's a hands-on, very gentle practice. This had allowed me to go into hospitals and treat patients. And so I've seen firsthand how, beautiful it can be to help other people and to devote yourself to helping others. That was really very pivotal in my own life as well, because when I allowed in the compassion that is, that you need to help other people from non-judgment and from love, it also heals you back. And so it was beautiful that as I was healing others, I was getting all that love too. And so nowadays I also teach mindfulness, and I offer it as tools for individual coaching, but also I bring it into my organization, mindfulness, to navigate stress, and burnout, which is huge, right? In anywhere that we exist and work. So I teach mindfulness tools that make everyone's life easier and possible for them to experience transformation. So one of the most transformative ways, to experience healing, and I like to say, is to think about service to others. Is my other, big point. First, allow yourself to feel. You have to feel in order to heal, right? And we said that at the very beginning. And healing is not about getting better. It is about getting better at feeling, about sitting with your emotion, allowing it through, being compassionate and kind towards yourself as you do that. And then eventually it will allow you to get to a point where you'll want to wonder, right? Be curious, keep that curiosity alive. You'll be curious about, what else can I do with this? What do I want this to be? And perhaps that will be helping other people, in any form or shape that you would like. So I'd love to, leave you all with that. Allow yourself to feel.
I think it's such an important message, and sometimes so distinct from, again, the stories we tell ourselves that are often based in the environmental cues that we have. I know we just have a few minutes left, and if you have a question, please try, pop it into the comments so we can see. And Sonia, thank you for affirming, your own journey and what Carmen is sharing. I'm curious to know if you can recall anything in particular about the internal dialogue that you were having, that narration that you were having around the loss of your brother, that allowed you to shift from really sitting in your feelings to purpose. Like, how did the internal narration have to really shift in your head in order for you to get from that place of just being okay with sitting in your feelings to saying, okay, now I can turn this into purpose?
Yes, I recall specifically, I had been through process of going within. I found tools that allowed for that. I was in a lot of inner discussion with myself, if you will. I experienced meditation. I went to retreats. I read a lot. And in one of those occasions, I came across something that says that nothing is truly lost. Everything is transformed. And it had not occurred to me until then that, because until then I saw this whole thing, my brother being here, who he was, the memories, everything. I just saw it as a complete loss. It's done and it's away, it's done forever. But when I read that, something really shifted inside of me. That's when I started to realize that I haven't lost him. Okay, I could transform that into something else. I get to enjoy him. We get to have a relationship, maybe that is a little different. And so also I can transform this pain into purpose. I could transform this pain into helping other people. That's actually when it happened, is when I realized that it doesn't have to be an end. It didn't have to be a loss, but a transformation, which is so beautiful and so much more hopeful than that void that you sit in when you're first going through it.
I remember you saying that to me. And it is powerful. It is powerful to think about relationships sit in our hearts, right? So we might lose the person, but we don't lose the relationship. It just transforms the way that manifests. And that was so meaningful to me to hear that from you. So it takes a minute for you to sort of sit with that, but it is very powerful when you accept that. Um, yeah, I mean, and Melissa's comment, Melissa is a shared friend of ours, about thinking now life begins after whatever that moment is. Yeah, for me, I've got one going off to, I got my last one going off to college next year. And so I am definitely in that place, Melissa, where I'm already in the pre-grief place where I'm thinking about, life begins after when she heads off to college. What does that mean? What does life look like? And so even when you are in any transition, like you said, or when I mean, for
Mm-hmm.
people that are caring for family members that they know have a limited amount of time left on earth, you do you there the grief thing. And as Leslie said, it's a process. You just keep rolling with it, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't you don't get to put boundaries on it.
Right. Hopefully not, and I always like to emphasize this. Please be kind and compassionate towards yourself. You're not expected to be a hero. You're not expected to only care for others and not care for yourself. It is completely valid to feel the way that you do. In fact, it is necessary, right, to allow yourself to feel, and just know that is that feeling and sitting with it is going to be part of your ultimate transformation, really, if you choose to allow that. And so I just also want to say that for anyone going through grief right now of any kind, or even those taking care of a loved one in that transition, first of all, I'm really, really sorry. But I'd like to say, commend you for the courage that it takes to look at this situation with grace, with compassion towards yourself and others, and to navigate it, being with eyes open. Do not close your eyes. Do not, go to the standard of not feeling and just going through it. No, allow yourself to feel. It is the most transformative part of this. And I'm here if you want to talk about this, if you need someone to listen, if you want to bounce ideas, if you want to go deeper into what it means to go navigate this change. I'm here for you. But I commend you for the courage that it takes to embrace this journey.
Yeah, I would just want to flash back up again Leslie's comment about the law of polarity, and that you have access to the negative and positive all the time. And I know I have found myself saying, I would give anything for another day with my dad. And then saying, but no, that's not true. Because if another day meant that he was suffering, if another day meant he couldn't be back at his home, but he had to be in a care facility where he felt neglected, if another day meant that I couldn't be with him, none of those would be the days that I want. And so I know that I'm a very deep thinker, obviously, about things, but I do find myself when I say things, and I think it's easy to have moments in grief where you are just in your feels and you are allowed to just be in your feels, and those can be very sad feelings. There's then also the opportunity to take a breath and remind yourself, there were some clear things that I would not have wanted for my dad, and I didn't have to experience any of those. And I am very, very grateful that that was not part of his death journey.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
and so there is always a place to see the balance
That's so
in my
beautiful.
experience.
That's so beautiful. You're absolutely right. It's always seeing that silver lining. And yes, the relationship changes, but it doesn't go away. It's just a new way of communicating with your dad. Your dad will always be part of your life. That doesn't change. Absolutely. And the other I like to also offer too is that one thing we can do to navigate the sad feels or those days, right, when we miss them is that why don't you start new traditions with your father in this new way of having this relationship, right? In this new relationship, maybe that becomes you go and do something that he loved doing and you go and do it with him, right? Knowing that he's somehow with you, and begin the tradition of taking that walk, taking that trip, doing that thing. In my case, I ended up going to Peru for a while on my own. It's something that my brother and I wanted to do together right before he died. And so I decided when I was in my process that I would go and do it. I had no idea what it would look like because I was still in the middle of it. But it was amazing. And so what I did was I did everything that he loved to do. And he was a big adventure seeker. So that meant I threw myself from every mountain. I went skydiving. I did every crazy thing that
I
boy would
love
do.
this. I love this
Yes,
suggestion,
yes,
right?
yes. And
And you
I went
carried
and
him
did
with
everything he
you
loved.
in your mind and your heart through every
Yes,
moment of that.
yes,
That's
yes,
a
yes.
beautiful way to end this. Is this idea um of the transformation. Thank you for giving us, because we are at our time, and I think that is a beautiful way to really transform your experiences. It's just a mental journey. It's just a small mental journey that you can take, you can access at any time. Well, I have to tell you, Carmen, when I got booted out and had to come back, I lost the connection for your freebie. So if you would,
Okay.
can you pop that into the chat for
Yes,
everyone? So
yes.
Carmen, she's so generous and she's so wise. And I hope you love her as much as I do, just in this brief opportunity to see her. But she has written a beautiful piece and she's offering you free access to that. And so we're going
Oh,
to get that in the comments for you so that you
I'm working
can
on it. I'm working
so
on
that you
getting that
so that you
access.
can get it. I'm going to preview and then I'm going to let her do her close. We're going to do things out of order. I'm just going to preview coming up on Friday. Melissa Robinson Hussein, who's in the house today, she's going to be joining me on Friday, and we are going to have a really beautiful conversation that you are not going to want to miss. So be sure that you have a Friday at, I have to look at my calendar. I think it's 2 o'clock. Friday at 2 o'clock. Yes. Melissa and I will be back, and we would love to have you with us. Um, let's see. I'm going to get this and tell people about how to reach out to you.
Yeah, so please reach out to me. I can be found on Instagram. I have the address right here. It's just at Carmen Alvarez Wellness. We'll love to hear from you and connect with you. We also, I have here a place where you can sign up for my newsletter and get to know about my events and retreats and everything in books that I have coming up. And what I'd like to leave you with as a freebie is an ebook about Reiki and the biofield that goes a little deeper into what Reiki and energy healing is and how it can be used, how it is used in hospitals today, and how it could be used in your own personal life to accompany your journey. So that's the free for you. I put it in the private chat because it wouldn't allow me to paste it into the
Oh,
comment
I gotcha.
area.
That's yeah, not on my regular laptop. All the settings did not come over with me, which is a crazy thing, but that's okay. So sway.cloud.microsoft and this address, and I will drop this into the or you can do that, Carmen, in the LinkedIn event itself for people to
Yeah.
access it. Melissa, Leslie, Sonia, everyone that joined us today, thank you for being with us today. Please come back on Friday. I love these conversations and I so value this time with you. Thank you very much, Carmen, for sharing all your wisdom and guidance today. And I will see you guys on Friday.